So we're just going to start off with a couple of questions. Is Disney's Wish a bad movie? No, but it's something worse. It's absolutely confused. And to understand what I mean by this, we need to go into what makes Disney movies great, usually. Is it technical superiority? Some cases, yes. But when you actually put it in the landscape of even back when they were doing 2D, a lot of people were doing 2D, but that wasn't necessarily the defining factor. Is it the actors? Is it the voice acting? Perhaps. Usually they did get quite good performances and everything, but it's not really any of that. It was always their thematic and almost philosophical greatness. And that greatness comes from the level of coherence in their storytelling. And this makes sense because a lot of these stories that Disney was working on in the earlier days were literally either copycat versions of some of the great stories ever told, like the way Lion King is basically Hamlet, or like Pocahontas and like Tarzan and Mulan, which of course the video is going to be talking about in depth. It's a whole scene comparison. It makes sense that these stories were great as Disney movies because they have always been great. They have been archetypically great. They have resonated with humanity for essentially all of their existence because they are so relevant. They are fiction so true, they might as well be fact. I know Mulan and Pocahontas are technically based off of real stories, but I don't want to sort of convolute the two, because the truth is, even if they weren't real, much like Tar, the movie from 2022 that had people thinking, is this a real story? Is this fiction? Even if these stories weren't real, even if they were fiction, they are so real, and that's why they resonate. And Wish struggles with this because of its thematic coherence. Now, we can even take a movie like Frozen, and I'll get to the Mulan thing, and say that while it's not one of the greatest movies ever, the first Frozen is at least something like an 8 out of 10. Because it at least is thematically coherent. You have a story of a girl, a story essentially, regardless of the characters, which you can sort of extract the characters from the theme and still have the theme work even if you just put people together. You have the theme being that the fear that leads people to constrain themselves and to be hostile to society is a terrible thing that can lead to terrible evils and leads to Elsa becoming the Snow Queen, and that love and understanding is the cure for those things. Is it executed as best as it possibly could? I mean, thinking about it now, I want to take that 8 or 10 rating and take it down to like a 7.5 or something, because it wasn't really executed all that great, but it still made sense. It was logically coherent-ish, and it does hint at something deeper in the human society. I guess that's why Frozen was taken up by certain groups of marginalized people as a sort of an allegory for their stories. But Wish suffers from this because if you take the theme that it's trying to do, and let's do the theme by essentially breaking down what the characters are. So what is a king? There was a video, a couple of people, especially on the more conservative social cultural side, I think is how Americans describe it. They're talking about how the king is a representation of God because he has all these wishes and he refuses to grant all of them for good reason. If you want to take it in the concept of religion and God, it kind of makes sense. Prayers and wishes can't all be granted because some of them, they aren't actually helpful and beneficial together. You have all-out chaos if everyone's wishes are granted every single time. And so some of these people, these figures, I think I saw a video, a short, was Ben Shapiro talking to the Critical Drinker. I'm sure you know who both of those people are if you've actually been on film YouTube. They were talking about how the king is God, and so technically he can't be the villain of the story, right? Ben Shapiro was very much ready to bury Disney and be like, yeah, of course they're going to make him the villain because, of course, Disney has become this very weirdly out of touch company where it comes to spiritual and philosophical topics. And I was also thinking, if that's the way they're going, yeah, they're definitely going to run into a bit of problems thematically. And if the answer is that this king who won't grant everyone's wishes is the villain, and so therefore the hero who will find a way to grant everyone's wishes is the hero, how are they going to answer the questions like, are you telling me that everyone's wishes are great and all beneficial for a community, that society has no criminals, nothing bad is going to come of that? It sounded already like a movie that was going to be so stupid that it was just going to not just be confused on a thematic level, but to just fail on a thematic level. And I guess we thank God it's not, but it does still suffer from thematic issues. So the king in the story is not God. Actually, if you see what exactly you're trying to parallel, he's exactly what he is. He is a king. He is government. And in this story, he essentially takes people's wishes, makes them forget about it, and then promises that he will have them fulfilled one day. And these wishes are not to be shared with anyone else, stuff like that. So no one exactly knows. But at least that's the sort of thing, which is another one of the things. But that's a technical confusion issue with this movie. I want to stick to only the thematic confusion. And so that's paralleling sort of how politicians come up with their policies, and you vote for them, and you give them your heart's desires and your wishes to be fulfilled. And then they get into office and they do whatever they want, make you forget about what exactly you wanted from them, with all the other issues that tend to happen in society, and the society goes nowhere, and then you are still stripped of your agency to actually be a person, which is essentially what the story is about. Is that we shouldn't give people this power, and then I think that they will actually grant all our wishes. It's just not possible. For similar reasons that we stated before, I mean, even if you were to grant everyone's wishes, that would still be chaotic. So this story, you would think logically, is going to climax at this point where we all realize, hey, asking a governmental figure, magical or not, to give us everything that we want is not a good idea. We should. And they have this, because that's the problem with forgetting the wish, is that then you can't go ahead and have the agency to get what you want for yourself. But it doesn't necessarily go that way for a couple of reasons. And those reasons are essentially, unfortunately, all in the hero. This is a very weird thing for a Disney movie, because it's not the villain. I mean, yes, Magnifico he's odd, and he's not in the Mount Rushmore of greatest Disney villains ever. He's not Jafar, he's not Maleficent, he's not the evil queen in Snow White. Kind of goofy. He's kind of this modern age Disney kind of villain, where slightly incoherent villainy, but still, thematically speaking, he's solid. Thematically speaking, I mean, apart from the fact that they don't really explain why he's making people forget, but you could kind of insert that because it allows him to maintain power and maintain being this figure that everyone needs. You could see that in a lot of politicians as well. And so because of that, I'm so willing to forgive that little hole in his characterization. And yeah, there's a little throwaway line in the third act where he's talking about how he will have all the wishes for himself, and then there will no longer be hope. And so you can kind of see that they didn't want to maybe spoon feed the audience with that. Fair enough. But like I said, the problem, unfortunately and weirdly, in this Disney movie is with the hero. This hero doesn't understand the theme. The main problem is that she doesn't have anything she actually wants for herself that wishing would have given her. She's not even a subject of the whole wishing process. She hasn't given away any wishes. She doesn't have anything that she needs to remember that she needs to fix, which is strange, because yes, there's this whole plot about how the thing that she wants is to get her mother and father's wish granted, or is it her mother and her grandfather's wish granted? And that, I think, is fair. But the thing is that then she has nothing of her own that she actually, and this could have been actually great. A hero who doesn't want anything for themselves but for their community. And it could have been great in such a way that they actually find a way to get her to help, say, her grandfather, whose wish she really wants granted. It would have been great if she actually goes through the process of her with her grandfather, reinstating his agency and their agency as people, and finding a way to grant his wish through non-magical ways, through hard work and, taking the opportunity, seizing the moment for themselves. But they never really do that. And in fact, what they do, interesting, at the end is worse because what they do is that at the end of the movie, she gets a magic wand from that little star thing, and we just had a tyrannical leader that has been granting people's wishes with powers. We don't need another one. That is not the thematically coherent thing to do. In fact, what she should have just done is, a scene in Harry Potter where he breaks the other one and throws it away because it's just too powerful, and no one needs to have that much power. Beautifully thematically coherent for that story, right? Exactly what this story needs, for her to realize that magic and having these people that are sworn to grant people's wishes is not what this town needs. She just snaps the wand, and we're all better for it. But of course, she's not actually going to learn that, because I think I've said before, she doesn't actually have a story of her own where she needs to assert this kind of agency, and a story where the magic of the king wouldn't have helped her, and the magic of the star even wouldn't have helped. All the magic sort of helps, but then it's like, not really. It actually makes her life worse. Where is the be careful what you wish for in this story about wishes? Aladdin, literally, and now I'm thinking about it, and maybe that should have been the story that I did a comparison with. Aladdin is literally a better story about wishes than wish. And once again, isn't it like an ancient folklore that has remained with our society for ages? This is why Wish isn't a great movie. And I'm coming to the Mulan thing. It just doesn't tell a story that is thematically true enough that it will be remembered, that you will remember it and it will inspire inspire you or educate you if in the years to come. And so now we can enter the scene comparison with Mulan. Mulan is one of my favorite Disney stories of all time, and I really put it out of the heart. But I was just like, yeah, I could pick any great Disney story. I just talked about Aladdin a couple of minutes ago, and it would just work much better because it's thematically coherent from start to finish, irrespective of whatever technical issues any of those stories have, and I don't think they have that many if there are anyway. Mulan on the surface level is of course superficially a story about, you know, it's a girl boss story. It's a story about a woman sort of defying and maybe even defeating the patriarchy, and that's all the surface level stuff. But you know why people don't complain about Mulan, the original? Why guys love Mulan as much as any girl loves Mulan, and we don't have any gender debates on Mulan, even though it is literally the most in your face, hey, woman beats patriarchy? It's because it's a great story. It is true, and it's because it's not about woman beats patriarchy. It's about two scenes. The first one is the scene where she's training, the be a man scene, where she truly gets to understand and learn from men to be a man in a situation and in an industry, war, and we're calling war an industry, but you know, in a situation where understanding the traditional tactics of men is extremely beneficial. And then it comes to a thematic climax with the second scene where she then takes what she has learned from the men, the male tactics of war, and uses those exact tactics, okay, the exact thing that she had to learn from the guys, adds a bit of feminine jazz to it, and uses that to save the day, and the men join in. It's not a story about woman beats patriarchy. It's a story about how masculinity and femininity need to learn how to coexist and learn things from each other in order to protect their own society. This is a story where they both learn from each other. Literally the most masculine man, the guy she falls in love with, joins in on the whole, you know, climbing the pillars with the tactic that he taught her, and now she's, you know, reinventing so that they can save China. It's amazing because it's true. It's true that with society without completely well integrated masculine side or feminine side, where, you know, the two genders are not being discriminated against and they actually have the chance to, both of them, explore their full potential, you can't shut up one side of society. This is essentially what I'm saying. And it's a story that resonates with everyone, regardless of age, regardless of race, and regardless of gender. And you can just put the cherry on top, and I just thought about this right here, is the bad guy. Han is literally peak toxic masculinity right here. He comes from a society that is essentially all that brutish, masculine, you know, beating people at war type of thing. And in the end, it's the integration of masculine tactics and feminine tactics that eventually protects China from this purely toxically masculine villain. It's sad that the 2020 remake didn't have that, because I think that this is a story that definitely needs to be properly adapted for everyone to see. It's so strange that that was where Disney decided, hey, yeah, we don't need to actually keep this great story coherent. Let's just do whatever we want. I'm still very butthurt over that. I think it's just sad. Everyone should go and watch that Mulan movie for the betterment of society. And that again is the issue with Wish. I can't say that. I can't say Wish is such a thematically great movie, has such a great moral lesson that everyone should hear. Kind of almost touches it, but it doesn't really. It lets itself down. And will Wish suffer because of this? Yes, unfortunately, because currently the Disney brand is on fire, and if this was an apology to the fans, it's not a good enough apology. It's too little, too late. Something that also is happening with the Marvels movie, which I will be talking about probably around the same time as this video goes up. So subscribe for that. And even worse, it not only will probably fail at the box office because of this, it will also not be remembered in the history of animation and great stories, because it just isn't great even at the thematic level. This is not the kind of movie that eventually becomes a cult classic because, oh wow, how did we all miss that? The story is so great. No, I said it lets itself down. It is confused. But the annoying thing is that I'm not surprised that Disney did this. The surprising thing would have been if they actually managed to pull together and make something great, because Disney has just fallen off when it comes to actually creating stories that resonate with human beings and that could be told as great stories to anyone in history. And maybe also we are sort of the ones who are asking a bit too much. I've had this theory about how Disney is kind of a bit of a fraudulent company. Apart from Pixar seems to be the one that actually comes up with great originals, because apart from the Pixar movies, Disney itself has all their greatest movies are essentially great folklores. And of course they're great movies if they're great folklore, especially if they actually followed, because there's a reason these stories have lasted 1,000+ years anyway. They were great from the start. That aside, Disney has clearly lost their soul and their understanding of what makes movies great and stories great, because they literally had it and then they just let it go. I don't understand why. Now, I have said that, especially in contentious situations like this, I will make a video talking about the positives, so to speak, which this movie has just disappointing positives. It's all it could have been, but it's not. It's literally everywhere in this movie. It's in the music, it's in the characterization. It's annoying. But I will make the video just to fulfill, my promises to the community, and to make sure that it's not a thing where we're just bashing things. So subscribe and leave a like for that if you want that, and if you like this video, and if you would like to also leave a donation because you really like this video and it really just touched you, please go ahead with the super thanks button right below. My name is Oseremen, this is Cards and Reels, and I'll see you in a bit. Peace.